Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video on my channel, Hairliciously. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe so that you guys are updated on hair loss and hair transplant content, as well as updates on current hair loss treatments in the pipeline. Visit my website at hairliciously.com to purchase a microneedling device, which is scientifically proven to stimulate hair growth, my low-level laser therapy cap, DHT debulking shampoo, conditioner, and serum, hair growth vitamins, Pyrilutamide, and a few other products to help those who are losing hair. In today's video, I wanted to share a pretty impressive before and after transformation regarding a guy on Trestless who had posted his results after being on topical Pyrilutamide. As most of you guys probably know, Pyrilutamide, aka KX-826, is one of Kinter Pharmaceuticals' hair loss treatments that is currently being researched, and it's undergoing phase 3 clinical trials in China and phase 2 clinical trials in the US. It's one of the most ideal anti-androgens, androgen receptor antagonists, in my opinion, because it has one of the highest binding affinities for the androgen receptor, even higher than that of DHT. So this alone just puts Pyrilutamide as a far more effective treatment than any other anti-androgen out there. And because it is an anti-androgen, systemic exposure of Pyrilutamide and its metabolite were low in all dose groups from phase 2 clinical trials. And the good thing is that none of the patients who were trialed experienced any adverse side effects pertaining to sexual function. As far as efficacy that we know of, results in terms of increased hair count were easily comparable to past studies of oral finasteride. So, obviously this would be a great adjunct to add to one's hair loss treatment stack, especially if it doesn't include an anti-androgen. It's by no means going to be a cure to hair loss, but because it does work in a different mechanism of action, pairing Pyrilutamide with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors and growth stimulants can actually help further stabilize hair loss and even promote hair growth. So this guy goes by username Broly the Demonic. If you guys want to read through the comments, I'm going to be leaving the link to the Trestless page. But basically, he's been taking Pyrilutamide for about 5 to 6 weeks, and he's claiming to have seen some pretty incredible results. He also discloses the fact that he's been taking more than just Pyrilutamide, which is pretty common, and that he's also a steroid user. A common misconception is that DHT is always the byproduct of metabolic reactions between 5-alpha reductase and an anabolic steroid. The truth is that excessive intake of testosterone, for example, can definitely increase susceptibility to hair loss due to the interaction with 5-alpha reductase to produce DHT. But there are other synthetic anabolic steroids that can actually lower incidence of androgen activity, and it actually does not interact with 5-alpha reductase at all. The key thing to note here is that different steroids have their different individual level of anabolism and androgenicity. But in this guy's case, he's been taking 500 milligrams of testosterone and primobolan, which can actually both induce hair loss. So before I go over the before and after photos, he's been taking 0.5 milligram of dutasteride daily. He's been microneedling once a week at length 1.7 millimeters, oral minoxidil 6 milligram daily, a keto shampoo once a week, and then Pyrilutamide once a day, as opposed to the twice-a-day regimen per Kinter Pharmaceutical. He's also, been on set treatments for well over a year, with the exception of Pyrilutamide. So he's attributing most of his hair growth to mainly Pyrilutamide, since he noticed drastic changes after using it. Now, this first photo here was taken before he started taking Pyrilutamide. He likely was on the other hair loss treatments for over a year, and we can clearly see a Nord3 hair loss pattern and even some hair loss kind of like in the mid-scalp. The temples on both sides are pretty receded. The temporal points on both ends also have miniaturized, but the one good thing to his advantage is that his curly hair characteristics can give an illusion of more density as there's more coverage. He also does mention that he didn't have any side effects other than a feeling of tightness on the scalp, I'm assuming, and that only lasted for a few minutes after application, but that it went away after the first week. He also mentioned some minor itching, but nothing crazy. This next photo was taken at the end of 2 weeks. He decided to cut his hair shorter, and once again, we can see the receded temples on both ends, although it kind of looks as if there are still, these little miniaturized hairs, which is always a good sign when somebody's trying to reverse hair loss, because it's better to have hair than not to have hair. And in the post, he actually mentions this, and he says that he noticed a difference in the density of baby hairs that has been growing back in the recession regions on his temples. And we can also see some thinness throughout the mid-scalp area, but it doesn't look like, there's been much change from week 0 to the end of week 2. He also stated no side effects during the second week of pyrilutamide use. Now this next photo was taken at week 4. The lighting kind of seems to be a bit off compared to the previous photo, but it still does look like, the photo was taken in the bathroom, just at a different lighting and angle. But, at least to me, it kind of looks as if the hairs have filled in a bit more in terms of increased density in the temple area. And we can kind of almost see like an outline of his hairline of how it used to look like. He also said that he didn't have any side effects to report at week 4, which is always good. Now, this next photo is at the beginning of week 5, and this is where some of the crazy transformation is actually taking place. We can clearly see just how much the temples have actually filled in on both sides, and we can even kind of make out the full hairline. He easily went from, I would say, a Nord 3 to a Nord 2, maybe even like a Nord 1.5 with some slight temple recession and thinning. And, honestly, it's crazy to see this because it's clear that his temples have filled in with density. And at just 5 weeks of treatment using pyrilutamide, this is an incredible, transformation. Because he was taking other treatments in addition to pyrilutamide, it's going to be impossible to tell exactly which treatment or treatments actually help promote hair growth. But, if he's been taking dutasteride, oral minoxidil, microneedling for well over a year and saw no results or minor results until he incorporated pyrilutamide into his hair loss treatment regimen, there's going to be a pretty good chance that pyrilutamide was, the driving factor that he needed to really push his hair into growth mode. He also stated in his post that he hasn't seen much growth until he started using pyrilutamide. And that's kind of like the thing with stacking treatments. Unless you're really just kind of using one treatment at a time, long term, I'd say anywhere from at least like 6 to 12 months and checking for efficacy before moving on to the next treatment. It's going to be near impossible to see which one was effective when you're combining all these different types of hair loss treatments that work in different mechanisms of action. And sometimes, you just kind of have to use them all together to get the best results. There's plenty of people who's been taking finasteride or dutasteride as monotherapy without seeing any significant increase in density or stabilization. But once they start incorporating something like minoxidil with microneedling or, tretinoin or RU5841, they were able to really see a huge difference in hair growth. Here's another photo at week 5 of his right temple from a different angle and lighting. And, it's clear that the lighting environment in some of these previous photos weren't consistent, despite being taken from the same alleged bathroom. But there's no doubt that, this guy has seen some pretty good improvement to his density in his temples. And for somebody who's been responding very favorably to treatment in just a matter of 5 to 6 weeks, this is, something worth noting because Kintor studies were for 24 weeks, which is 6 months, that resulted in efficacy similar to that of oral finasteride. But here we have a guy who's been seeing some pretty good results at 5 to 6 weeks. So I'm very optimistic that with a synergistic approach with incorporating both a 5-AR inhibitor, growth stimulants, anti-androgens like pyrilutamide, non-responders or slow responders to conventional treatment may have a better edge in potentially, seeing better results by targeting hair loss through various mechanisms of action. The poster of the thread also indicated that he will try to give update photos to monitor his, his progress over the next few months. So if you guys are interested, you can check back on his posts from time to time to see his results. And I am fairly optimistic that over the next few months, this guy will very likely see better improvement to his temples, especially, if he's seen improvements so early into his regimen. At the end of the day, it's just crazy to see how well somebody responds to treatment. And for this specific guy, it's on top of using an anabolic steroid like testosterone and primobolan, which are, known to accelerate hair loss. So this means that an anti-androgen like pyrilutamide is going to be extremely potent in treating hair loss. But I will give you guys an update on my use of pyrilutamide. And as some of you guys may know, I started incorporating pyrilutamide into my hair loss treatment stack a few months ago. So I will be making a separate video on this. I will say that I have been seeing some positive results. Good thing is that no side effects have been noted other than some scalp dryness and some itchiness. But that subsided after application. I've also noticed kind of like some thickening of hairs on the sides, which were afflicted with retrograde alopecia and were kind of like thinning on the sides. But I'm going to save all of the good details in my next video, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And if you guys are interested in trying out pyrilutamide, you can check it out on my website at hairliciously.com. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me via email. That wraps up this video, guys. If you personally have been using Pyrilutamide and want to share your results, you can reach out to me anytime, or you can drop a comment below on how it's been working out for you. As always, thanks for all of your support, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care, guys.